Angels never seem far away. They touch our lives most every day, in little kindnesses and in people who have loving hearts, just like you. This angel magnet was taken from my nanny's kitchen over 10 years ago. My nanny wasn't your typical grandma. She was a petite Italian lady from Brooklyn, New York, who always told you what was on her mind, whether you liked it or not. Every Saturday, I would go to her house and sleep over. We did all types of things together. My fondest memory was baking cakes and other delicious desserts in my nanny's kitchen. This angel magnet reminds me of how much fun my nanny and I had in her kitchen. I can still remember waking up every Sunday morning, hearing the sauce simmering and the smell of delicious meatballs. As soon as I woke up, I would count down the hours until I could eat her amazing meatballs and spaghetti. This ring was one of my nanny's daily accessories. She wore this on her ring finger, along with her nameplate ring on the other hand. I took this ring to remind me of her and have kept it safe in my jewelry box for almost 12 years. This ring reminds me of her tiny hands. It reminds me of how she used to cook those Sunday meatballs with her hands and always took this ring off as she cooked to keep it sparkling. This ring is important to me because it belongs to the woman I love the most. I never imagined that the woman I love the most would leave me so quickly. After all, the entire summer we spent together, she was fine, and then fall came. Maybe they call it fall because that is how I felt. I felt as though I was falling. It was unexpected. She went into the hospital to only have a few tests taken after feeling ill for a few months. My nanny strayed away from doctors. Maybe that's what really killed her. I was only 12 years old, and it was Halloween night that I saw my nanny for the last time. I remember that night being so cold and calm. I remember walking into the hospital, and all I noticed was how white everything was. The bright white walls, floors, doctors' coats. Maybe all the white color in the hospital made me feel like I was in tunnel vision, or maybe I actually was. My family warned me of what I was about to see. As I walked towards her hospital room, I began to feel numb. I felt as though I was having an outer body experience. Then I arrived at that room. I immediately felt as though the temperature dropped into the negatives. A harsh chill ran down my spine, and then I saw her. She had been in a coma for almost 2 weeks. Everyone told me that this would be my moment to say goodbye, and that she would not be able to respond, but she could hear me. The door closed, and it was just my nanny and I alone for the very last time. All I could do was stare at her. She was so swollen from all the medication that she was almost unrecognizable. I was in shock. It took me a few minutes to compose myself and not have a total breakdown, but it was uncontrollable. This was the woman I did everything with. She was like my second mother. She was my everything. I didn't want to waste any time with her. I slowly walked closer to her bed. I was petrified. I reached for her hands as I was shaking. Her once tiny hands were swelled that I couldn't help but wonder, how did we get here? I built the strength to touch her hands and begin to say everything I needed to say to my nanny one last time. I remember crying uncontrollably, but trying so hard to control myself, because if she could hear me, I didn't want her to think something bad was happening to her. I didn't want her to know that this would be our last time together. I told her that she was my angel, my soul. She was my best friend, and that I loved her more than she could ever imagine. Everyone told me she wouldn't respond, but I begged her to send me a sign if she could hear or feel me. I felt hopeless, and then it happened. My nanny began to softly put pressure on my hands, telling me she could hear and feel me. And to my disbelief, my nanny's eyes opened, and we locked eyes for the last time. It was a brief moment, but I felt as though she gained all of her energy to do that for me. My parents and grandfather could not believe it. They were in disbelief that she only opened her eyes for me. I was the only person she responded to. After that moment we shared, She did not respond to anyone. She was back in her coma. I left the hospital that night feeling empty, lost, in denial. On November 7th, 2001, my family made the decision to take my nanny off life support after finding out she had lung cancer that spread throughout her body. My nanny would not have wanted to know she had cancer, nor would she have wanted to seek treatment. My family did not want her to suffer, so we let her peacefully leave this earth in her sleep. Not only did my grandmother pass away on November 7th, 2001, but I feel a part of me died with her. November 7th, 2001 was the day that my nanny became my angel. This is my nanny's mass card. It's titled Togetherness. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you always used to. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let me be the household word it always was. Let it be spoken without efforts. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of your mind because I am out of your sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is past, nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as before, only better, infinitely, happier, and forever we will all be one together with Christ. My nanny's mass card from her wake has been in every car I had. I keep one mass card in my car and one mass card in my wallet. I feel as though she is with me at all times. I read her mass card more than I would like to admit, but every time I read it, I feel so much better. This saying in her memory really represents what my nanny would say to my family every time we would get depressed thinking about her. This November 7th will be the 12-year mark of her passing, and although it has gotten easier to cope with her death, I cannot help but feel a sense of emptiness. I feel as though in the last 12 years, my nanny missed out on so much. Burst relationships, broken relationships, decisions, mistakes, graduations, new opportunities. I miss my nanny so much, and I hope I'm making her proud. I love you, Nan.